The gas lamps flickered across the grimy industrial landscape of late 19th century Britain, casting long shadows over nascent football pitches. These were not the manicured emerald stages of today, but often muddy, uneven tracts of land, carved out amidst factories and terraced houses. Here a rough-and-tumble spectacle unfolded, a game still shedding its rugby heritage, where brute force often superseded finesse. English football, the dominant form, was a testament to individual might. A player, seizing the heavy leather ball, would charge forward, a human battering ram, attempting to dribble through a thicket of opponents, relying on strength and singular skill to breach defenses. The ball, a cherished possession, was surrendered only under duress, kicked long and high, or wrestled from an opponent in a chaotic melee. Spectators bundled against the damp chill, roared approval for every powerful run, every determined charge. This was the accepted truth of the game, a contest of individual heroes, a test of raw physical prowess. Yet, even as this physicality defined the sport, a quiet, almost imperceptible shift began to stir hundreds of miles north, in the rugged, rain-swept lowlands of Scotland. From the modest, often overlooked communities nestled between hills and glens, a different vision of football began to coalesce. It was not born of grand stadiums or professional leagues, but nurtured on smaller pitches, within clubs whose names echoed the spirit of their locale, like the venerable Queen's Park FC here. A profound question was being asked, not through grand pronouncements, but through the silent, intuitive understanding of players on the field. What if the ball, rather than being a solitary burden, became a shared conduit? What if collective intelligence could outmaneuver individual strength? This nascent philosophy, initially dismissed as quaint or even cowardly by those accustomed to the direct, confrontational style, was a radical departure. It challenged the very essence of how the game was played, proposing an intricate dance where possession was fleeting, passed from boot to boot, a continuous thread weaving through space. It was a strategy born of necessity, perhaps, but also of a unique cultural inclination towards collaboration and ingenuity. This emerging Scottish style, a stark contrast to the prevailing English individualism, was more than just a tactical tweak. It was a conceptual revolution. It envisioned football not as a series of isolated duels, but as a symphony of coordinated movements, where players moved not just with the ball, but for the ball, and for each other. The idea of the short, accurate pass, a seemingly simple maneuver, became the cornerstone of a complex, interwoven tapestry of play. It required foresight, anticipation, and an almost telepathic understanding between teammates, transforming the chaotic scramble into something approaching art. This quiet evolution, blossoming in the less heralded corners of the footballing world, would slowly, inexorably, begin to ripple outwards. It was a vision that would face skepticism, even ridicule, but its inherent elegance and undeniable effectiveness would ultimately prove irresistible. The story of how this humble, collective approach, forged in Scotland's small villages and pioneering clubs, reshaped the global game, defining the very essence of modern football, remains one of the sport's most profound and enduring narratives, a testament to the power of a single, revolutionary idea. The genesis of this revolutionary approach was deeply interwoven with the very fabric of Scottish society in the latter half of the 19th century. Unlike the sprawling, often anonymous urban centres to the south, Scotland's industrial heartlands, while bustling, retained a profound sense of community and local identity. Life in towns and villages was characterized by tight-knit social structures, where collective endeavor and mutual support often superseded individualistic pursuits. This communal spirit, forged in shared experiences of work, worship, and recreation, provided fertile ground for a game that valued the whole over its constituent parts. Furthermore, the pervasive amateur ethos of Scottish football at the time fostered a genuine camaraderie. Players, often working men, devoted their precious leisure hours not for financial gain, but for the sheer joy of the sport and the bond it created with their teammates. This pure love of the game, unburdened by professional pressures, encouraged experimentation and a shared pursuit of tactical excellence. Consider, too, the practical realities of the pitches upon which these early matches were contested. Far from the carefully manicured expanses of later eras, these were frequently uneven, often waterlogged tracts of land, carved out wherever space allowed. Such challenging conditions inherently discouraged the long, aerial clearances and prolonged individual dribbling runs that characterized the English game. A heavy, unpredictable ball on a treacherous surface demanded precise control and quick release. Consequently, players found that short, accurate passes along the ground offered a far more reliable and efficient means of advancing the ball. This environmental constraint, rather than a hindrance, became a catalyst for innovation, subtly guiding players toward a more nuanced ground-based style of play. Moreover, a deeper cultural inclination towards ingenuity and problem-solving appears to have underpinned this tactical evolution. Scotland, with its rich history of Enlightenment, thought and engineering prowess, possessed a societal predisposition for analytical thinking. This intellectual curiosity extended even to the realm of sport. The game of football, for these early Scottish pioneers, was not merely a physical contest but a strategic puzzle to be solved. How could a smaller, perhaps less physically imposing group of players consistently overcome larger, more direct opponents? The answer, they collectively discovered, lay in the intelligent manipulation of space and the relentless movement of both players and the ball. It was a cerebral approach, prioritizing foresight and collective understanding over brute strength. Within this fertile environment, a distinct Glasgow school of football began to emerge. This was not confined to a single club, but represented a shared vision among a cluster of teams and individuals in and around the burgeoning city. Coaches and players from various amateur outfits would observe each other, learn, adapt, and collectively refine the principles of short passing and positional play. They understood intuitively that the ball, when moved swiftly and precisely between teammates, could outpace even the fastest individual runner. This shared intellectual project, driven by a common desire to elevate the game beyond mere athleticism, fostered a collaborative spirit that transcended club loyalties, accelerating the development and dissemination of their unique tactical insights. The confluence of these factors, the communal spirit, the amateur ideal, the challenging playing conditions, and an underlying intellectual curiosity, collectively shaped the foundational elements of the Scottish passing game. It was a style born not of a singular genius, but from a widespread, organic evolution within a specific socio-cultural context. This collective intelligence, honed on muddy fields and fueled by a passion for the beautiful game, would ultimately provide the blueprint for the intricate, possession-based football that would come to define the sport for generations, demonstrating how deeply societal values can influence even the most seemingly simple of athletic endeavors. Imagine, for a moment, standing pitchside in the late 1800s, observing the two prevailing football philosophies clash. On one side, a robust, direct approach, characterized by powerful individual runs and forceful clearances. On the other, a fluid, almost ethereal display of collaboration. The Scottish game, once it began to solidify its unique identity, presented a mesmerizing spectacle of synchronized movement. Players, rather than holding onto the ball for extended periods, would release it with a touch, then immediately drift into a new space, creating an intricate web of passing options. This wasn't merely about short passes. It was about the purpose. Behind each pass, the deliberate creation of angles and numerical advantages across the field. A hallmark of this evolving style was the systematic use of triangular passing, rather than a linear exchange. The ball would move between three players, forming a dynamic triangle, always offering two potential outlets. As the ball left a player's foot, another would be sprinting into the vacated space, or drawing a defender wide, opening a channel for a third teammate. This constant, intelligent off-the-ball movement was perhaps the most radical departure from contemporary norms. Players understood that their actions without possession were just as vital as their moments with it. They were not static markers waiting for the ball. They were active participants in a collective endeavor to manipulate space, creating corridors for attack or closing down avenues for the opposition. Moreover, the Scottish innovators embraced a fluidity of positions that baffled their more rigid counterparts. While most teams adhered to strict roles, with defenders staying deep and forwards remaining high, the Scottish game saw players interchange roles seamlessly. A fullback might overlap into an attacking position, while a forward might drop deep to link play. This positional interchange kept opponents guessing, disrupting their marking schemes and creating pockets of space that could be exploited with a quick pass. It was a conceptual leap, transforming the field from a series of isolated zones into a unified, interconnected network, where every player was a potential pivot in the attacking flow. Consequently, facing these Scottish sides became a perplexing challenge for teams accustomed to a more predictable, physical contest. Defenders, trained to tackle the ball carrier, found themselves chasing shadows as the ball zipped from foot to foot, often bypassing them entirely. The sheer speed of thought and execution required to counter this intricate play was immense. What seemed like a simple series of short passes was, in reality, a sophisticated system designed to draw defenders out of position, create numerical superiority in key areas, and ultimately, engineer clear goal-scoring opportunities through collective precision rather than individual heroics. It was a bewildering experience for many opponents who struggled to comprehend, let alone contain, this elusive, collaborative style. Beyond the immediate spectacle, this paradigm shift began to subtly influence footballing thought across Britain and beyond. The early international matches between Scotland and England, in particular, served as vivid demonstrations of these contrasting philosophies. While English teams often relied on their superior physical stature and dribbling prowess, the Scottish collective frequently outmaneuvered them through sheer tactical brilliance and relentless passing, though not every match resulted in a Scottish victory. The indelible impression left by their coordinated play initiated a slow, grudging recognition among even the most ardent proponents of the direct game. Journalists and coaches alike began to analyze the scientific nature of the Scottish approach, recognizing its underlying intelligence and potential for sustained dominance. This marked the beginning of combination play. Entering the football lexicon, it was a recognition that the game could be more than a series of individual duels. It could be a symphony of coordinated actions, where the ball became the conductor. The emphasis shifted from the individual's battle to the team's collective mastery of space and time. This profound conceptual transformation, forged on the training grounds of Scottish clubs and refined through countless hours of dedicated practice, laid the groundwork for modern tactical systems. It was a testament to the power of an idea, proving that ingenuity and collective intelligence could indeed reshape the very essence of a global sport, moving it decisively beyond its rudimentary beginnings. The distinct tactical blueprint forged in Scotland did not remain confined to its borders. Rather, it began its subtle, yet inexorable, migration southward. As the professional game in England blossomed, drawing talent from across the British Isles, a quiet exodus of Scottish players commenced. These individuals, often lured by the promise of better wages and larger crowds, were more than just skilled athletes. They were unwitting missionaries of a new footballing gospel. Arriving at English clubs, they did not merely adapt to the prevailing direct style. Instead, they introduced their teammates to the intricacies of collaborative play. Through demonstration, on the training ground and subtle insistence during matches, they demonstrated how the ball, when treated as a shared resource rather than a personal trophy, could unlock defenses with unprecedented elegance and efficiency. Their presence gradually seeded the principles of passing and movement into the very fabric of English football, initiating a slow but profound cultural shift within the sport. This new methodology, centered on collective rather than individual brilliance, necessitated a revaluation of the ideal player. No longer was sheer physical dominance or the isolated, head-down dribble the ultimate virtue. Instead, the Scottish approach demanded players with exceptional spatial awareness, an acute understanding of angles, and the precise touch required to deliver a pass with the perfect weight and direction. Vision became paramount. The ability to perceive opportunities before they materialized, to anticipate a teammate's run or a defender's shift, marked the truly effective player. This intellectualization of the athlete transformed the game's talent pool, fostering a demand for nimble, thinking players who could orchestrate attacks through intricate ball circulation, rather than simply powering their way through opposition lines. Furthermore, the Scottish game elevated football from a mere physical contest to a subject of serious strategic contemplation. Coaches and astute observers began to dissect its patterns, charting the paths of the ball and the synchronized movements of players. This analytical rigor led to the earliest forms of tactical diagrams and structured discussions about formations and player roles, moving beyond anecdotal observations to a more formalized understanding of the game's mechanics. The pitch, previously a chaotic arena for individualistic skirmishes, began to be viewed as a geometric puzzle, where space could be created, exploited, and denied through intelligent collective action. This intellectual underpinning provided a framework for future tactical innovations, laying the groundwork for football as a science, not just an art. Initially, the novel Scottish approach encountered considerable skepticism, even outright derision, from quarters entrenched in the more traditional, direct style. Critics dismissed the short passing game as effeminate or cowardly, contrasting it unfavorably with the perceived masculinity of direct, confrontational play. Yet, the undeniable efficacy of the Scottish method, particularly in high-profile matches and competitive tournaments, steadily eroded this resistance. The repeated spectacle of smaller, seemingly less powerful Scottish teams outmaneuvering their more physically imposing opponents through sheer tactical superiority proved a compelling argument. The ball, when moved swiftly and intelligently, became an unstoppable force, demonstrating that collective wit could consistently overcome individual brawn. This triumph of strategy over brute force gradually compelled even the most ardent traditionalists to reconsider their long-held beliefs, fostering a grudging respect that eventually blossomed into admiration. Consequently, as its advantages became irrefutable, the Scottish passing game ceased to be a mere curiosity and began its transformation into a universal model. Clubs and national teams across the globe, recognizing its inherent effectiveness, embarked on a journey to study and emulate its core tenets. This assimilation was not an abrupt, wholesale adoption, but rather a gradual absorption of its fundamental principles: the emphasis on possession, continuous movement, and the intelligent manipulation of space. The blueprint for modern attacking football, with its intricate passing sequences and fluid positional play, had been definitively laid. What began as a local innovation in the small communities of Scotland ultimately transcended its origins, becoming the foundational grammar of the sport, shaping the very way the beautiful game would be understood and played for generations to come. Reflecting on this journey through the formative years of a global phenomenon, one begins to discern the intricate patterns woven into the very fabric of its evolution. What started as a localized whisper of a different way to play, born from a distinct cultural soil and nurtured by specific circumstances, steadily grew into a resonant chorus, challenging established norms and reshaping perceptions of athletic excellence. We have traced the subtle currents that diverted the mainstream, demonstrating how a novel approach, once seen as an outlier, gradually carved a new course for the very essence of the game, a course that would eventually become the universally accepted riverbed for its development. The very spirit of collaboration, ingrained within the communities where this novel approach took root, found its purest expression on the pitch. It was an organic process, a collective realization that the sum could indeed be greater than its individual parts. This profound understanding transcended mere physical prowess, advocating for a cerebral engagement with the game, where foresight and shared intuition became the most potent weapons. The heavy, unyielding ball, once a solitary burden to be wrestled forward, was transformed into a conduit of collective thought, flowing seamlessly between players who moved not just for themselves, but in anticipation of each other's next touch. This intellectualization of the sport redefined athletic virtue, shifting the emphasis from raw individual power to the intricate dance of synchronized minds and bodies, an orchestral performance where every instrument played its vital, interconnected part. This redefinition of athletic virtue, prioritizing collective intelligence over individual might, did not remain an isolated curiosity. Like seeds carried on the wind, the principles began to scatter, taking root in new environments, often in the most unexpected corners. The initial resistance, born from a deeply ingrained preference for raw power and direct confrontation, gradually yielded to the undeniable elegance and efficacy of this emerging philosophy. The quiet revolution, once dismissed as unconventional, demonstrated its inherent superiority time and again, compelling a revaluation of what constituted true mastery on the field. It was a testament to the power of a foundational idea, capable of dismantling long-held beliefs and forging a new path for an entire sport. One truly grasps the magnitude of this transformation when observing how swiftly the game's very grammar began to shift, moving away from fragmented, individualistic acts towards a cohesive, interdependent narrative that captivated audiences and baffled opponents. Drawing these myriad threads together, we observe more than just a tactical innovation. We witness a profound conceptual shift that permeated the entire landscape of the sport. The vision of a game played through fluid movement and continuous exchange, where space was manipulated as much as the ball itself, slowly but surely became the prevailing orthodoxy. It was a quiet triumph of ingenuity over brute force, a demonstration that elegance and precision could outmaneuver sheer physicality, forever altering the blueprint of competitive play. This enduring resonance, echoing from humble origins to grand stages, continues to inform how we perceive the beautiful game today, shaping its strategies, its heroes, and its very appeal. As we stand at the precipice of our final contemplation, The cumulative effect of these insights reveals a remarkable story of how a singular, unifying idea can not only transform a pastime but also offer enduring lessons on the collaborative, human spirit and the relentless pursuit of perfection through collective endeavor. The path forward, illuminated by this historical journey, promises a deeper appreciation for the intricate tapestry that defines modern football and its boundless possibilities. The story of football's evolution is not merely a chronicle of scores and championships, but a profound narrative of ideas, a testament to how vision, even from the most unassuming origins, can fundamentally reshape a global phenomenon. What began on the rain-soaked pitches and within the close-knit communities of Scotland was far more than a mere tactical adjustment. It was a conceptual revolution. It challenged the prevailing dogma that football was primarily a contest of individual strength and brute force, daring to propose an alternative where collective intelligence and intricate collaboration became the ultimate determinants of success. The ball, once a solitary burden to be wrestled through opposition, transformed into a shared conduit, a circulating pulse that animated an entire team, weaving patterns of movement and thought across the field. This shift, from isolated heroism to synchronized artistry, irrevocably altered the very soul of the game. This profound transformation was deeply rooted in the cultural soil from which it sprang, the communal spirit prevalent in Scottish towns, the amateur ethos that prioritized camaraderie and the pure joy of play over personal gain, and perhaps even a pragmatic response to challenging playing conditions. All converged to foster an environment ripe for innovation. It was a collective endeavor, not born from a single genius, but from the shared intuition of players and early strategists, who recognized that the game could be elevated beyond its rudimentary beginnings. They understood that by prioritizing the short, accurate pass, by constantly moving into space, and by thinking several steps ahead, they could outmaneuver opponents who relied solely on physical prowess. This intellectualization of the sport, treating it as a complex puzzle to be solved through coordinated effort, laid the philosophical groundwork for everything that would follow. As this unique Scottish style migrated southward, carried by players who sought new opportunities, it gradually infiltrated and ultimately redefined the broader football landscape. Initially met with skepticism, even dismissal, its undeniable efficacy in creating fluid, penetrative attacks slowly but surely eroded resistance. The sight of a smaller, seemingly less formidable team dissecting a physically superior opponent through a ballet of passes and intelligent movement proved a compelling argument. This was the triumph of mind over muscle, of foresight over brute force. The passing game was no longer a regional curiosity. It became the blueprint, the universal language of modern football, shaping the very way the sport would be coached, played, and understood across continents. Every intricate passing sequence, every fluid interchange of positions witnessed in today's game, carries the indelible imprint of those pioneering Scottish minds. The enduring legacy of this revolution extends far beyond the boundaries of the football pitch. It stands as a powerful reminder that true innovation often emerges from unexpected places, driven by a willingness to question established norms and embrace a different way of seeing. It illustrates the profound power of collaboration, demonstrating how a shared vision and collective effort can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles and redefine what is possible. The story of Scotland's passing game is a testament to the idea that elegance and precision, when combined with intelligent design and unwavering teamwork, can ultimately prevail over brute strength. It teaches us that the greatest achievements are often born not from individual brilliance alone, but from the intricate, synchronized dance of many, moving as one towards a common goal. Thus, as we reflect upon this pivotal chapter in football's history, we are left with more than just an understanding of tactical evolution. We are presented with a timeless lesson in ingenuity, resilience, and the transformative power of a unifying idea. The beautiful game, in its most refined and captivating form, is a direct descendant of those early Scottish pioneers who dared to envision football as a collective art. Their legacy endures not just in the strategies employed on fields worldwide, but in the very spirit of cooperation and creative problem-solving that continues to drive human endeavor. The true practice of this enduring lesson begins now, not on a pitch, but in our own willingness to embrace collaboration, challenge convention, and seek the elegant solution in every complex challenge we face.